Yo, what's good, everybody? It's your boy Steph from the Hot Movement Podcast. And have we seen enough from influencer turned boxer in Jake Paul? You know, when he burst onto the boxing scene, winning his fights against has-beens, you're like, okay, you know what? Maybe this kid has a future in boxing if he continues to take it seriously. He goes up against Tommy Fury, and it was a good fight. One of the more better fights, even though in the loss. And it was like, okay, you know what? There's potential. We see clearly that there's some things he can tweak on skill-wise that, you know what? A few more fights and he can slowly start increasing the level of competition and hanging in there. And if not, hey, who knows? Possibly win, right? So fast forward over the summer, he fights Nate Diaz. I saw the highlights of that fight because I did not pay for that fight. Wasn't going to. It was abysmal. And Jake Paul is scheduled to fight December 15th. With no opponent. Interesting. And Nate Diaz has said that he wants to fight Jake Paul again. And look, Nate Diaz, in this article I'm reading, and from what I've seen, obviously, and I agree with it, was that Nate Diaz was a lazy opponent. He did no real work to build the fight. The fight was a good bag for him to collect, and that was it. Okay, so there was really nothing for Nate Diaz to lose, but a lot for him to gain. And he got his gain. For Jake Paul, I think he took a step back fighting Nate Diaz. According to this article, 8 fights in the boxing. This is what Jake Paul said. 8 fights in the boxing game. I'm already his biggest name, said Paul in the press release. I've proved that I can headline the biggest global events and defy the odds, pay-per-view after pay-per-view after pay-per-view. And I'm just getting started. My mission is to be a world champion. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to get there. December 15th is the next step on my journey, and I promise you're not going to want to miss it. I think we'll be okay missing this one. Of course, Jake Paul and his team denied of Nate Diaz fighting for a second rematch. So Jake Paul doesn't want to go down that rabbit hole again with Diaz, right? But I mean, that's kind of up his wheelhouse. I mean, look, Nate Robinson, Ben Erickson, Tyron Woodley, Anderson Silva, Tommy Fury, Nate Diaz. I mean, this is what you're saying, burst on the scene. You know, the only legitimate boxer you fought on here really is Tommy Fury, and you lost. Albeit close, you lost. Okay, you fight Nate Diaz. You put him down once, cool, but you didn't knock him out. You know, when I saw the highlights of the fight, I mean, looked kind of, frazzled at times a little bit because Nate Diaz wasn't really a traditional boxer, so he didn't really know how to go up against him. And he took a couple shots in that fight himself from Diaz, and had to sweat this one out. Even though it was a unanimous decision, and he dominated the fight still, So as far as him, who knows what this opponent is going to be, but for him to say that, listen, I don't know what the sale did for that other fight, Nate Diaz and Jake Paul fight, but nowhere near the Tommy Fury fight, and I think influencer boxing is slowly dwindling a little bit. The only guys really in influencer boxing are the ones who are actually, they're fighting guys who are actually boxing and taking it seriously, right? And those are the ones where I'm keeping my eye out for to see if those guys level up. But for Jake Paul, he has his hands in a lot of different things. He wants to get in the UFC. I know he's with that PFL league and whatnot. And I'm sure he's probably scheduled to fight some UFC fights. But he's saying that he wants to be the greatest at boxing. You got to pick your lane and stick to it and increase your level of competition. And the fact that you just announced that you're going to fight December 15th, for who is your opponent? The only person right now that you said he's not going to be him, but Nate Diaz spoke. Again, everything for Nate Diaz to gain, nothing for Jake Paul to gain out of fighting Nate Diaz. Outside of another weird, unorthodox looking fight, and that Nate Diaz fight really didn't showcase your new boxing skills from the Tommy Fury fight. So, yeah, I don't know what Jake Paul's thinking, but he had the momentum when he fought Tommy Fury. He followed it up with Nate Diaz, and I feel like it's just kind of dwindled down. Now, if there's an up-and-coming boxer that's hungry and he wants to fight him, okay, cool. Maybe that might spark some juice and some interest. Let me know what y'all think. Anyways, guys, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe. I'm out.